Hello, ladies and gentle nerds. This is Graham, also known as HamHawks42 on the internet, and we are here with another edition of Overthinking MTG. And today's episode is brought to you by that moment when you're playing Commander and you play a Diabolic Tutor and think, well, crap, what am I going to go grab now? All right, so we are going to be looking at a random magic card. Let's go ahead and click on the random card button on Gatherer. And today we got Guttural Response. Okay, so I'm not exactly sure what's going on here, so I guess I'm just going to start reading the card. So it is an instant for one hybrid red-green. So the converted mana cost is only one, and you can spend either red or green to get there. And it's an instant uncommon from Shadowmoor. Counter target blue instant spell. What? 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 The what? Um, and then it had some flavor text. Wart had a raiding bellow that could shatter steel, melt auras, and slice counter magic in half. Wow. Um, I gotta say, this thing has me a little bit confused, a little bit bewildered. Like, I'm just trying to figure out what the heck was going on. Like, if you told me that this was from Planar Chaos, I would believe you because the point of Planar Chaos was to color shift, like shift the color identities of all the different cards. Like that was the whole point. That was the idea. That was what the set was built around. Shadowmoor, if I'm not mistaken, was part of the Innistrad block, and so it was the horror themed set. So where does this like I don't understand what's going on. Okay, and the reason for my confusion is red and green. One of the effects that neither of those colors should ever have, almost ever, is counter spells. That just doesn't exist. Um, yeah, it just doesn't. Like in these colors, it doesn't really make sense. That said, countering blue instants is super, super narrow. And if you're looking at the color pie, one of the color pie is broken out into a lot of cool ways, and all of the colors have allied colors and enemy colors. And green and red are ally colors, uh, and both of them are the enemies of blue. So it's kind of interesting, kind of makes sense that you'd have a hoser to blue that was in red and green. Like that's not weird, that's not shocking, that makes good sense because both red and green are not cool with blue. And it kind of makes sense because when you think about green, you think about nature, natural order, growth through the way things currently are and the way things should be. There's kind of an element almost of fate, but more like the natural order, how things work. Then you have red, which is all about action. It's all about impulse, trusting your gut. It's very emotional and very fast. And so you get those two things and you have trust your instincts. You have work within your world. Meanwhile, blue is stop and consider everything. Make sure you're making exactly the right choice because the opportunity cost is something that you can't afford to lose out on. Um, and so it's all about trying to find perfection through careful study and knowledge. So those are very much at odds with one another. So that is encompassed really nicely in this card, I think, because it's actually, you know what? The more I think about it, the more this makes sense. So the thing that caught me off guard about this particular spell is that it says counter target blue instant spell. Whenever you have countering a spell, you're doing stack based shenanigans, and that is almost exclusively blue's realm. Being able to actually stop a spell from resolving is something that very few colors do, and blue does it the best. And, far and away, it's one of its things, which makes sense because blue has piss poor creatures that are just not worth it 90% of the time. They're overpriced and you don't get the value. You've got, what else do you have? You can't deal in direct damage, so what you end up needing to do in a lot of blue cases is you draw a lot of cards so you have a number of options, and those options are answers for what your opponent is doing mostly because your aggression, your strategy to actually close out a game isn't going to be as efficient as everybody else's. And so what you need to do is stop your opponent from working. Now, So that's kind of the blue control philosophy. There are other philosophies, of course, and other play styles in these different colors, and there's all kinds of stuff you can do. That's what makes Magic great. But when you think about blue, what does blue do? Blue tells me to stop playing my game, and that's why I don't like going up against blue. Blue control is a real pain in the butt to go up against if your opponent is doing it well. Hell, just recently at the World Championship, as I'm recording this, World Championship 2020, what is it, PVDDR, BVVR? Anyway, sorry, Paolo actually won the whole freaking thing with a blue-white control deck. So not super surprising there. And there are some killer finishers these days. So the reason I talk about that, the reason I throw that out there and discuss that mentality and that style is because when you're playing an aggressive strategy, which you see a lot in green and red, where you have creatures, they're attacking, you find blue players want to counter those creatures before they hit the board or bounce them back up to your hand, somehow prevent you from hitting them or prevent you from doing your strategy. And so what Guttural Response does is it gives the red-green player or the green player or the red player a way to tell the blue player, no, I'm going to power through this. So it's if I cast, let's say, I throw down my 3-drop creature, my 3/3 for 3, my Barkhide Troll, or whatever you want in that situation. I almost want to go back to Troll Acetec from Mirrodin, because I remember that guy was a big deal back in the day. One of the first creatures, if I'm not mistaken, to have hexproof. Anyway, regardless, it was. So let me say I drop my bomb 3-drop, and they throw a counterspell. Just good old fashioned counterspell, like cost 2 counter target spell, or any hard counter. Remove soul, sinister sabotage, absorb, name whatever. Dovin's Veto, although actually that can't touch a creature, so never mind. Forget I said that. But counterspell of choice, Diva's choice. Pick a counterspell, they throw it at you. Now that counterspell is going to be blue because they're almost all blue. And so, okay, cool. So the blue player tries to counter my creature, and then I get to say, you know what? No, guttural response. And so what I see there is Wart had a raiding bellow that could shatter steel, melt auras, and slice counter magic in half. The idea that you're trying to hold me back, you're trying to stop me from doing something, and I'm just so powerful I can just break free of that. Like that's really cool. And that's what's coming through in this card. And so like, yeah, you're going to try to stop me. Oh, you're going to use your magic to prevent me from doing my thing. No. I'm going to push through. Like that's so cool. And that fits so nicely into red green. I dig this actually. So I started out being super confused, wondering what the hell is this? Because the keywords or the actual words the rules text in the formatting doesn't quite match um doesn't quite match my expectations of these colors. However, from a flavor perspective, the more I look into it, the more I realize this actually works, and it works really well. And the fact that I can only touch blue instants makes it fair because it's a counterspell that can only that you can cast for one. It's a counterspell in red and green that was printed at uncommon that only costs one. That's insane. And so it's only usable in a really fringe situation. Now, that one fringe situation, if you need something to stop a control player, this thing's great. So it's sideboard fodder top to bottom, but at the same time, or I mean, it's sideboard filler, but at the same time, if I'm playing in these colors and it's legal in whatever format I'm playing, I'm considering putting at least 3 of these in my sideboard, like regardless. If I'm because going up against the control matchup, this is just such an efficient hoser. That's really cool. I like it a lot. Yeah, and so the artwork. Now taking a look at that, the artwork is interesting. It is showing what appears to be a a red spray of magma or what looks like maybe a blade, like a molten blade that has been like launched into the aether into the sky, and it's trailing like well it looks like it's trailing liquid metal. It looks like imagine a discus that is so hot that it has begun to melt and then somebody chucks it. Like that's what we've got here. And so it's trailing this like molten metal and it is clearly hitting some kind of fish. It looks like there is a fish that is coming into existence. It looks like it's being summoned from, because it appears to be coming into existence, and this like molten blade is like cutting through it as it's trying to get summoned. Imagine like the Mystic Remora actually is what this fish reminds me of, and yeah, it's just getting shredded by this red blade of fiery magma. I would definitely recommend looking at it. It's guttural response from Shadowmoor. Yeah, it's yeah, man, that fish is having a rough day. Maybe that's a is that a that might be a mull drifter actually. Anyway, and I don't know if you evoke no, if you evoke a mull drifter, it's still a creature because it comes into play as a creature. It just dies immediately. Yeah, no, you don't cast it as an instant in that case. So you couldn't target it with guttural response. So that's potentially there's a little bit of a flavor dissonance there, unless there's another thing I'm not seeing here. Because I gotta say, so far I'm really impressed at what this card is doing from a functional perspective, and in the name, the ability, and the flavor text setting some context, I mean, like pointing out counter magic specifically, I think really helps drive that point home. The image I don't quite, because in the flavor text it says that it's a bellow. Which makes sense with the name guttural response. So it's some kind of scream, and I don't really see that depicted in this particular artwork. It doesn't. So there's a potential disconnect there. I mean, it's a cool piece, and I have no doubt that there is a place for that art. Um, but yeah, I don't know that it's here. In any case, it's interesting. This is fun. This is a really cool card, and actually I like it a lot more. The more I look at it, the more I talk about it, the more I think about it, the more I realize this actually is a really cool way to hose control players in green or red. That's the other cool thing with hybrid mana. You get to go either. Yeah, interesting stuff. Yeah, Shadowmoor, uncommon, card number 208. Anytime I see an instant for one, I'm gonna go ahead and stop and read it. And this one did not disappoint. All right, guys, thanks so much for hanging out. I appreciate it. I also stream over on Twitch, twitch.tv/hamhocks42. I would love it if you come check me out over there. And yeah, you can also hit me up in Discord. If you have any special requests for cards that you'd like to see or any comments, please don't hesitate to leave them in the comments below in whatever podcast app or YouTube, all where these are all available. And yeah, you guys have a good one. I'll catch you next time.